WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Welcome back, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The time is 7:49, and you're listening to Ari as well as Crystal. We are activated mornings this morning. This morning, we have joining us Comptroller of Inland Revenue, Kelvin Pompey, to discuss the recent changes as announced by the Prime Minister and as well, courts as well, over the weekend period, I would say.
Yeah, a day. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome. Just to preface you, we only have about 10 minutes, so we're gonna have to like compress everything in that 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. It's good to be live with you guys. Hope everything is fine.
Thank you. All right, so you can go ahead and give us an update on the courts. Unicommerce.
Well, of course, Unicommerce is the parent company basically that owns Courts in Vincent and the Grenadines. On Thursday, the department received judgment from the East Caribbean Court of Appeal on a matter that has been going through the courts with regards to the Inland Revenue Department versus Unicommerce. And effectively, essentially, at the end of the day, what the court ruled is that the tax department was correct in its assessment, which started since 2015. And as a consequence, Unicommerce is supposed to be paying to the tax department an amount just a little over $20 million at this point in time. This matter started, as I said, in 2015. It went through the objections unit, that is the department objections unit. They ruled in the department favor. Unicommerce then appealed to the Commissioners of Appeal, which is an external body that handles tax matters. The appeal commissioners also ruled in the department's favor. And the Unicommerce then appealed to the High Court here in St. Vincent. The High Court ruled in the department's favor. Unicommerce then appealed to the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal, and that body also last week ruled in the department's favor. So I think we can see a pattern here.
Okay. How did it all start? Can you like specify what tax?
Well, it's really corporation, sometimes corporation tax, withholding taxes. Unicommerce is a multinational corporation, which means that it has branches and subsidiaries, so around the region. And our task at Inland Revenue is to examine the accounts and books of companies to determine whether or not the deductions they are claiming, that is the expenses they are claiming, are consistent with the Income Tax Act and, of course, international financial reporting standards. And during the audit of 2015, we would have identified certain anomalies in the accounts of Unicommerce, which we then challenged and ultimately reassessed. And of course, as I said, the assessment at that point was $12 million in taxes. It now stands at $20 million inclusive of taxes, interest, and penalty.
Has there been any payment since 2015 for the original amount?
Could you repeat?
Has there been any payment received?
Oh no, not at this point. And we would have been allowing the company to exercise its right to appeal to the courts, within the region. Of course, they have exhausted that in terms of appealing to the highest, body that we have in the region. I think the only option available now to them is to appeal to the Privy Council, which I think is the final court of appeal, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, citizens resident at this point. They have that right. But at the same time, I think we would have at the department, I think, exercised sufficient tolerance and restraint in not collecting the outstanding amounts. And I think at this juncture, we would be making a demand for the full outstanding amount.
Can you say what time frame for that demand?
Well, we'll have to be sitting and discussing, I think, having discussion with our legal team, but I suspect that before the end of this week that we will be making a demand on the taxpayer for the outstanding taxes. The tax department, we would have over the years, I think, been narrowing our compliance gap in relation to multinational corporations. We would have been looking at how we do things in terms of our efficiency, making sure that the right procedures and systems are in place, as well as our auditors being exposed to training. We have also been closing the legislative gap because we had some areas in the law that provided loopholes, we think, to multinationals and other taxpayers. And we have also been closing and tightening these gaps. So as a consequence, we are now in a much better position to police and manage the accounts of these large entities that have branches in different jurisdictions, because their accounting sometimes are a bit tricky. That is, they have multiple branches and they do have a lot of intercompany transactions and transfers. And also we have seen instances where the profit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines can be reduced because of charges made to other branches and so in other countries, payments made to other branches. And so our job has been to look at these transactions and to make sure at all times that they are consistent with the Income Tax Act. I think this judgment proves that the investment that is being made in the tax department over the years is paying off, because we have, as I said, exposed our auditors to significant training, and we have been looking at our procedures and our systems and strengthening them. And as a consequence, I think the department is in a much better position now to manage and to deal with issues relating to multinational corporation and their complex transactions.
From your experience, is there a possibility that the company made a genuine mistake somewhere along the line?
Well, in accounting, you kind of have mistakes, or you kind of have schemes that give rise to underpayment of taxes. I think looking at this transaction, I don't think it was one that one can say it's a mistake, it's an error. I think the way that the court has ruled, if you look at the judgment, it speaks to the fact that this is something that was designed and created. Of course, from the taxpayer's point of view, and that is why we are at the courts, they may think that it is right and well within their right to do what they did. The tax department, on the other hand, has a responsibility to make sure that it is in conformity with the Income Tax Act. And of course, we had a difference of opinion between the taxpayers and the department, and that is why we ended up at the Court of Appeal, at the High Court, at the Commissioners of Appeal. And as I said, they have all ruled in the department's favor. I think we have had 4 rulings from different bodies in terms of this issue. And on each occasion, that body has said, look, the Inland Revenue Department is correct and Unicommer is wrong. And as a consequence, we are at this point where we have this ruling.
Oftentimes, I would hear lawyers say that sometimes the law is up to interpretation, because you're saying that the Income Tax Department there, right, and Unicommer believes that they are right as well, because they've indicated that they are going to appeal and take it to the Privy Council. Does that mean that you would still make the demands for the payment this week, or does that affect that in any way?
No, the Income Tax Act, notwithstanding the fact that there may be a dispute that a taxpayer may want to object to or appeal to the appeal commissioners, the Income Tax Act is clear. It says that payments are due, notwithstanding the fact that you have objected or you have appealed. So, and I want to take you through that. This is since 2015. This is kind of like 8 years now. The department has said, okay, we will give you your opportunity to seek what you call justice or an opinion in your favor. And I think after 8 years of waiting, I think the tax department basically has the right and have the right under the law to ask that payments be made. Because the Privy Council, while it is a final court of appeal for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Act quite clearly says that notwithstanding you object or you appeal, that the department can ask for the monies. And I think, we have been, as I said, tolerant and patient, given that we have given the company up to 8 years to basically have this matter overturned. And so far, they have failed.
If they make a payment and the Privy Council said that Unicommerce is correct, then that monies will be refunded to Unicommerce. How does it work? How would it work?
Yeah, those amounts would be due back to Unicommerce. But as I said, we have our auditors that did the assessment, and those assessments were upheld in terms of our auditing processes. Then we had our objection unit who looked at the case, looked at both sides, and agreed in the department favor. We had the commissioners of appeal who then look at the matter and determine, yes, the tax department is right. Then we had the High Court here in St. Vincent, who again look at the department and said, yes, the department is right. Then we had the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal, who looked at the issue and said, yes, the department is right. We have basically, as I said, you see the pattern here. And so we are, notwithstanding the fact that the company has the right to appeal further, I think we have, at this point in time, a preponderance of judgments in our favor that should make us want to ask, for payments. And given the facts, I mean, you never know about, where cases may go when they reach before, judges. But given the facts and given the history of judgments in this case, I think we are fairly confident that we would get a positive result should this case go any further.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. We have to cut a few seconds. Really quick question. How common is this instance with other companies?
Well, we do have the department. I think we are very selective in cases that we go forward with, because we recognize that to go forward, as you can see, the length of time and the resources it takes. So very often, and most taxpayers too, are quite willing and ready to work along with the department whenever we have issues in terms of differences. And I think that is what we have been utilizing over the years in terms of working together with taxpayers, listening and reasoning together, and coming up, I think, with amicable solutions. In this instance, I think it's not just a question of fact, it was a question of law also, and I think that the company wanted to go forward and to get the legal input into their actions. And of course, it is good for the system when this happens, because it means that there's clarity in the legislation and there's clarity in terms of procedures and systems that external bodies in terms of like courts rule on. And I think when we have these, it augurs well for tax administration, because on both ends of the fence, you have persons who can say, look, the tax department is wrong or the tax department is right. And I think that helps to strengthen and places more confidence in tax administration.
All right. So as we bring this interview to an end, is there anything that you'd like to leave with the listeners?
Well, I think as it relates to this case is to let persons know that, look, if you are dissatisfied with judgments from the tax department, that there are avenues available, and you can go right to the top of the legal chain, so to speak, on these issues. And also taxpayers, that we are always willing and ready to work to meet, I think, halfway on issues, so that we do not have to spend, as I said, significant resources and time going through the court. And also, perhaps at this point in time, I want to take the opportunity to remind persons once more, not just on this issue, but regards to property taxes, that we have an ongoing enforcement program going on as it relates to outstanding property taxes. And I am encouraging persons whose property are not on the tax roll or who have arrears to call at the department urgently, because we are ready and in a position right now to do the necessary enforcement action, which would commence at any day in terms of taking actions against property tax defaulters. So I just want to take this opportunity to remind persons, if you have property taxes outstanding, please call at the department immediately so that we can work out payment arrangements and prevent the issue from escalating to a level where salaries can be garnished and bank accounts garnished, assets can be seized, and also legal action can be taken in terms of seizure and sale of property.
All right. So thank you for joining us this morning, Comptroller Pompey, and providing information on behalf of the Inland Revenue Department regarding this case.
All right. Thank you. Always a pleasure working along with you. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
So the time is 8:04 here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and your time check was brought to you by New Haven Funeral Home.
Death is a fact.